So good afternoon. Welcome to our second History for Lunch for the month of June. We are delighted that everyone is here. We actually have a really nice in-person turnout today. And I was just looking at the online guests we have today, and we have quite a few that are still signing on with us. But we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, thank you for coming out. Just a reminder, our next History for Lunch will be Wednesday, July the 6th. It's hard to believe that we're already or just about halfway through our year of 2022, but at least it seems like we are normal again. But we'll have Mr. Randy Daniels from East Carolina University speaking on spear points that relate to the guardians of the land. But today, we are delighted to have Gardner here with us. He is from the Pasquotank County Solid Waste Department. He is the director, and he's going to actually talk to us about recycling, some myths about recycling. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Brad. But thank you, Brad, for coming today.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Lori, for that introduction. And I'm so happy to see that the technology is behaving. So I always get nervous, and I preface this by saying I know it's the lunch hour, and this is history for lunch. So I promise I won't gross anybody out or have any smells or anything like that. But I did want to excuse Miss Janice Browne. She's my other cohort with this. She had another commitment come up, so she wasn't able to make it. But the two of us were going to tag team, but I'll be flying solo this afternoon. I'm flattered, honored to be here today speaking with you. I'm originally from the area, live here, gone to school, and proud to serve you with your community. And I've kind of want to make sure that you know what the background of this is going on. I'm not an expert. I'm kind of the messenger, the intermediary, represent local government and then the private markets that are buying your recyclables, not only here in North Carolina, but throughout the country and the world. You can see with this background here, it's some commingled recyclables. My information's on the bottom, phone numbers, email, and we're also online through the county website. So. But I kind of going to go over the whole department as well as recycling and some of the challenges that we're faced today. Let's see, get this. So what makes up our department? We've got a lot of employees. Of the 51, the majority of them are part-time site attendant staff. I will remark that we're not the city curbside pickup. Our programs run near them, the materials that we pick up, but we're these 7 drop-off sites throughout the county. So if you're in the unincorporated area, you're bringing stuff to our department. We've got lots of vehicles, containers, dumpsters, always trying to make it look nice, even though it may be the dump. Yeah. So what is the solid waste department? A lot of times people say, well, I pay my taxes, you take care of it. Well, we're actually an enterprise fund, meaning that we're not funded by the general property taxes. That $144 solid waste fee that you pay each year, the $12 a month, goes to fund our department as well as tip fees. And so I kind of have this slide showing, what the menu is. Commercial garbage is $72 a ton. LCID, which is land clearing and inert debris yard waste, is $53. And then we've got everything from construction demolition, C&D at $53 a ton, to asbestos, tires, and recycling down here. The charges for individual types of waste are posted there at our facility. And then we supplement that with state grants, which are getting harder and harder to come by and more competitive, but we continue to underwrite a lot of our disposal with those. And under the county solid waste department, we kind of consist of 3 individual smaller departments. So we've got the actual landfill operation, which is out there at 983 Simpson Ditch Road, which is, I guess people might call Fun Junction, the park out there. And then the convenience sites are the $3 million operation, those individual drop-off sites. And then the transfer station, which is out there at the landfill. And it's that metal building where we take the trash and put it into tractor trailers. So, you know, it's a big operation, $6.1 million. We, everybody makes this waste. It's got to go somewhere. It's got to have an endpoint. And we handle it 7 days a week, 363 days a year. So where does all the trash come from? You know, we get these drop-off sites, the curbside, city collections, as well as private commercial haulers like the Bay Disposals, Waste Industries, GFL, which they're called. And you'll notice if you're ever out there at Fun Junction, well, I see that hill off in the background. There's bulldozers on it and trucks going up and down it. That's actually only construction demolition material. So I kind of use the analogy, if you use a crowbar or a hammer to tear up something, then that material can go to the construction demolition material. Everything else in black trash bags has to go in these trucks through the municipal solid waste landfill program and is actually exported or sent to Waverly, Virginia, to the Waste Management Regional Landfill, and is buried there. And like you can see, I mean, nothing's cheap. We got compactors, backhoes, fleet of tractor trailers that, you know, these guys, they get 5 to 9 miles per gallon. That's a good mileage, but at $5.79 a gallon, they're expensive to operate. So what are the sort of tonnages and locations that we're sending everything to? The bulk of our material is right here, the 36,000 tons a year that go to Waverly, Virginia. That hill back there by Fun Junction, the construction demolition, we're doing just over 1,000 tons a month of C&D material. And then yard waste, we measure that in cubic yards. Is used as alternative daily cover up there at the C&D landfill. And then recycling, we're doing almost 1,000 tons a year. And they're going to various markets, as well as concrete, asphalt, brick recycling. And that's been a good use. You know, we're in the coastal plain. We don't have rock. Everything has to be imported. So we're able to use the brick, concrete, asphalt ground up and as roadway base material out there at the landfill. So I kind of put this slide down here at the very bottom, the 1 million ton club. So there's about 30 landfills that in the nation that create 1 million tons or more. And we're sending our waste to number 21, Waverly, Virginia. It's about a 95-mile trip up the road to Waverly, Virginia, and they're number 21. So the landfills have become bigger, kind of like the hub and spoke model. There's a lot of cost involved. And so you've got to collect from smaller municipalities and send it to regional private landfills. So why are we, you know, kind of the main point of my presentation was why to recycle. You know, and here's a background of a landfill. I think this is another country, but this came from the state. You know, we have kind of a linear economy model where we extract materials, raw materials out of the ground, manufacture them, distribute them, and then consume them at our homes, work, throughout society, and then dispose of them. And what are we doing right here in North Carolina? You know, we talked about Pasquotank and the tonnages we create and where it goes, but I thought this was an important slide, and this came from the state of North Carolina. You can kind of see in the blue line is the actual tonnage that we're creating, and then the red line is the North Carolina population. And the state has been measuring this all the way back to 1990, and you know, we're creating about 7.5 pounds of trash per day, about 50% more than the average American right here in North Carolina. And, you know, I'm not here to make anybody feel guilty or anything, but some of the reasons for that is North Carolina is growing. Population, you hear about it, especially in the metro areas, Wake County, Mecklenburg. The state also equates that to sometimes hurricanes, natural disasters, wildfires, ice storms. And there's been 10.5 million people in North Carolina generating almost 14 million tons of trash and C&D at the last point here in 2020. So, it averages out to 1.3 tons of material per person per year that has to be landfilled and sent somewhere. So, it's kind of where we fit into at the state level there. And I was asking one time, 2008, why did it all of a sudden go down? And they equated that with the recession that happened after 2008, and it dipped and then it came back up. And I guess in my world, you could say, well, that's job security, Brad, right? But with the recycling, they're trying to get into a circular economy where maybe I'm preaching to the choir, but you're conserving natural resources, reducing the energy and greenhouse gas emissions, conserving landfill space. I've been in this industry about, almost 20 years now, but over 15 years ago, we had the Black Bear landfill where they wanted to build in Camden County. And remember the outcry of, we can't have that next to the dismal swamp, or the water table's too high. And nobody wants another landfill. We all use them, but from what I understand with the state of North Carolina, probably in our lifetime, we'll never see another landfill located east of 95 because of populations, waterways, and other natural hindrances. So, they're trying to look from the linear economy to more of a circular one, where after that consumption, we're starting to collect as far as recycling, and then extracting those materials from the recycle stream to then design and remanufacture there. So what were some of the recycling market challenges? Everybody's probably heard about this, but in 2017, China introduced national soy. They had become the dumping ground for the world's recycling. And not necessarily Pasquotank, but a lot of the other recyclers throughout the country we had some bad actors, and they were sending all their dirty recyclables over there to China, and they were becoming the world's dumping ground for a lot of contaminated products. So, when China makes a decision, they do it pretty quickly and swiftly. And what's that saying? When they get a cold, the world gets the flu. But they banned unprocessed plastics and mixed paper from import. And a lot of other Southeastern Asians followed suit, Vietnam, Thailand. And the result was that US and a lot of other countries which had exported contaminated recyclables to China had to become responsible for their own post-consumer materials. So, anecdotally, it was cheaper to send our recyclables up to the Hampton Roads, get processed and sent to the other side of the country in China than it was to send it to Georgia, where they made carpet out of plastic bottles. So it was cheaper to send it internationally than domestically. The domestic recycling prices have temporarily plummeted from oversupply, but have since started to rebound with the price of oil going up. I don't want to make anybody feel guilty or kick yourself if, gosh, I didn't recycle that plastic bottle, but I just want to kind of explain what's going on from a big picture standpoint. So it used to be cheaper to export it, and now we've had to find domestic avenues for that. But some good news, and I know this, you're saying, well, this is like 5 years ago, Brad, come on. The total recyclable material, little Pasquotank County was number 5 in the total recyclable material that we collected of the 100 counties. And then in our traditional recyclables, which I mean, plastic bottles, cardboard, scrap paper, aluminum and steel cans, we made it 29th, in the top third for the state at 102 pounds per person for traditional recycling. So, that's something give yourself a pat on the back. I think it's pretty impressive. You know, we're behind Catawba, the Dare counties with all the tourists, Chapel Hill, Onslow County. So we done pretty good. But then as of yesterday, and it was just appropriate, I told the state, I said, I have a presentation, I'm a little nervous for a history for lunch. And they shared, you know, the results from the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality for 2020 and 2021. We came in 4th place for the entire state. You can kind of see right here, there's 332 pounds of total recycling coming out of this county, out of the 100 counties. We're number 4. So I know sometimes people want to fact check, or you know, I'm saying a tall tale, Brad, but there's the website with this publication that you can, you know, look into. But you know, we're never going to be able, I don't think, to pull off what Currituck does. They've got tourists coming, and their population swells up really big in the summertime. So they've got a lot of beer bottles and other recyclables coming out of that county. But that's a real proud number to be, you know, nothing to sneeze at. So what is the, you know, the characterization of that local government recovery count for? You know, the majority of it is organics, the yard waste, the composting, and then fiber. You know, you'd be surprised. We're an Amazon family. Everything you order in Amazon, you know, is a box inside of a box. And when you go and get that, and sometimes it's multiple boxes a day, all that stuff's got to go somewhere. So 18% of it is, you know, fiber, which they call paper. And then, you know, we get electronics. We collect those from you at the old farmers market on Pritchard Street, as well as scrap metal, plastics, and glass. So a lot of factoids there. And the state kind of shared this slide with traditional recyclable material recovery. You know, the bulk of it is fiber, paper, and we're making a lot of it. Despite everything going digital, you know, we're running this through a Zoom thing. There's still a lot of paper out there. I know my kids have gotten out of school, you know, they're cleaning out lockers and notebooks and rooms, so making a lot of fiber this time of year. So at the local level and here in Pasquotank County, how are we trying to be efficient with your money? This is one of our trucks, one of our my coworkers here. Sometimes people ask, well, why do you put everything in a recycled compactor and then compact it mixed together? Well, we're trying to be efficient, and that container will then hold 8.5 tons in there. And when we send that truck down the road, you know, it's maximized the payload. The glass container, you know, we're holding 5.5, 6 tons, and the technology has gotten strong enough now that they can separate the colored glass when it goes to Wilson, North Carolina. It's as my father says, it's something like out of Mad Max. They've got vibrators and magnets and all different technology to separate glass. And then we're, you know, continuing to keep the haul-in, employee, and operation costs within budget. And so what is that orange recycling compactor out there for? You know, most of you, since you're attending this, probably already familiar, but just these materials. And with paper or fiber, I say, if you can tear it, you can put it in that recycle compactor. So, you know, don't put laminated paper in there, big, heavy poster board or real estate signs or trapper keepers, just traditional paper that you can tear. And then, you know, plastic bottles, aluminum cans, steel cans. If it's got a neck on it, we can take it. We don't want a 5-gallon bucket or, and it's hard because the private sector has put recycled chasing arrows on everything. And you've got to find a market. And a lot of these, our processor says, hey, we just want stuff with a neck on it. So, you know, the detergent bottle's okay. The water bottle that I'm gonna finish drinking, okay to go in there. But to date, we've never had a load of recycling rejected due to contamination. In fact, a lot of times when we bring up the recycled loads, they're like, "Oh, that's the Northeastern North Carolina. Yeah, that's clean stuff." They're proud of it, and I think it goes to those site attendants out there. We've got a lot of people that are retired. It's just a little gas money, something for them to do, but they're out there. I don't know whether you can ever automate it, but those site attendants are making sure the right stuff gets into that compactor. Now, with the city, we sometimes, I'm not pointing out where I saw this, but we got real wishful recycling. Siding, it doesn't have a neck on it. That's got to go to the garbage can. So, yeah, it fit in the recycle cart, but we can't recycle that. So, I just had to put that in there. And, if you see your neighbor putting something in there like that, try to tell them, hey, that goes in construction demolition. So right now, a lot of our recycling, the majority of it is being processed at Tidewater Fiber Corporation. They call it TFC, and the MRF is a material recovery facility. And they do about 1,000 tons from us per year, but they process 40 tons an hour. So what we're bringing to them is just a drop in the bucket. And since they're so close to the port, they're continuing to put a lot of it into these shipping containers and send it all over the world. But those recycling challenges, I mentioned that we recycle a lot. It's still super expensive to process recyclables versus landfilling them. Right there's a number, $75 a ton versus $69 a ton to throw it away. And that's been going on since 2018. But these MRFs aren't cheap to operate. The markets, there's a lot of them, saturation out there, but I would say eventually the landfills are going to fill up and you've got to have some place to put it. And once it goes into the landfill, we can't capture it back. They're not mining them yet that I know of. And, there's a glut there, but Bay Disposal, our other current recycling processor over here in Powell's Point, Currituck, they are sending some loads to the waste to energy firm Wheelabrator over in Portsmouth. And sometimes you get people that, they sigh and grumble about that, but at the same point, at least they're getting energy out of it and they're able to recover 100% of the metal on the back end. And it does a waste reduction of like 10 to 1. So every 10 tons of material gets turned into 1 ton of ash. But as a county, we have to provide this service per state laws and permits. I don't know if anybody here owns a restaurant. If you have an ABC license, state requires you to recycle your glass. So, it's nothing we can just turn off offering that recycling. So, it's something we've got to continue to offer, whether good times or bad times, or the highs or the lows of the commodity market. So some of the challenges within the solid waste department, mentioned those earlier, but we're trying to practice safety to ensure that all of our employees return home to their families each day. The waste industry is like one of the top 5 most dangerous industries. I think it's behind logging and fishing, but we occasionally have people that lose control, run into a site fence, trucks where the 5th wheel breaks. You name it, we've probably seen it. But we want to make sure that's paramount, that all our employees remain safe and that we don't hurt anybody and everybody gets home. And then number 2 of the top 5 challenges would probably be staying current with new rules, capital investments of equipment and infrastructure, tipping floors. We can't just buy regular concrete. Some of our concrete runs $250 a square foot. JCB backhoes, you're talking about 6 figures. Roadways have to be paved, but trying to work within our budget. Another third challenge, maintaining a ready workforce. I guess I was a little taller and thinner there, but we were making a little field trip there. These are the people that make it happen, site attendants, staff. You know, throughout COVID, we were on the front line. You know, they were called essential workers. We couldn't stop, you know, the work. And these people made it happen. It's also harder to find workers. Truck driving, you know, it's hard as a county to compete with the private sector where you have sign-on bonuses and commissions and everything. But trying to keep these workers and keep them safe is a real challenge. And then number 4, you know, always having space for your waste. It's probably this last month we've run into that. Sometimes you come in after a storm and the site's flooded, or you know, after a good weekend and storms, everybody's coming to the landfill with loads of yard waste. And when people are off, they're often working in their yard, cleaning out sheds, attics, making trash, but trying to make sure we have space at the landfill as well as in our containers. And then the last challenge, probably, you know, finding cost-effective ways to handle different waste or new waste streams. We're always trying to be a little creative. So with the recycling, we're using a walking floor tractor trailer. Those orange recycle compactors that you saw earlier, we're able to put 2 to 3 of those into a tractor trailer. And so instead of sending 2 or 3 trucks and 2 or 3 drivers, put it all into one big tractor trailer and send it off to market and be more efficient. This is right here locally. We have a Quonset hut building that we collect old farm pesticide bottles from, you know, to keep out of the waste stream. And then the Department of Agriculture has an agreement where they send somebody out to grind it and they pay the cost. We just host the space and they make sure that plastic doesn't get back into the recycle stream. And we had a pesticide collection day with Mr. Al Wood just last week. Over 18,000 pounds of old pesticides were collected, 9 tons. So that was really impressive at no cost to the public. And then paint is a big issue. We're solid waste. We don't collect liquid waste. We do have recycle programs for used oil, antifreeze, cooking oil, but people like to, oh, you'll take it, just, you know, I bought too much, here, have it. And we've come up with a way to mix it with mulch and kitty litter and solidify it. But, you know, if you harp on them too bad or tell them, well, you got to go take it this place or that way, they'll throw it in a trash bag, put it in your compactor, and then it will drip or spill on stuff. So we've been able to handle liquid waste, especially paints, in this process. And then always finding cost-effective ways to keep that space. Our Wellfield site right here off Wellfield Road and Main Street Extended, that's our second busiest site. And we've been kind of spinning on our wheels for 15 years now, trying to bring it from being long and narrow to horseshoe shaped with like McDowell Engineering and American Tower. So it's more user-friendly for you and the customer. And then with our C&D spot here, we're continuing to add cell for construction demolition. And then, you know, you're always running into problems. This person, they bought a modular home, had a lot of land that they were putting it on, and they discovered a scrap tire pile. You know, some heirs of theirs had an old machine shop. They just pushed the tires into a pit in the backyard, and when they went to put the septic tank in, they discovered thousands of tires. So, you know, we had to work with North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality to help clean up that and find some money for them. And so, you know, our wish list for our operations, and I think Green Saves Green, we've worked real closely with them. They are great stewards of, you know, doing the volunteer litter pickups. Number 10, people say, well, that dump, boy, it sure smells, stinks. You know, it's humid, it's hot. I'm like, well, if you'd empty your household trash regularly, it won't smell. I mean, we don't make the smell. People bring it to us. And I know gasoline is expensive, and they'll say, well, I can't go to the dump every day. I come once a week or once a month with a pickup truck load. And well, if you get critters in it and it smells, let's try to dump it more regularly so it doesn't sit out there and get so nasty. And weekly is a good idea. Compost organic material. Landfills have been found to be one of source of man-made methane. So if you can get the organic material out of your waste stream, your waste will be drier. You won't create methane. I know in our house, my son has it's almost like a chicken farm, and oh my gosh, all the scraps. I've noticed how the trash has become drier and creates less methane. E-waste, number 8. That's for TVs and computers or any device that hooks to it. You'd be amazed at that e-waste building on Pritchard Street will get treadmills and mixers and toaster ovens and everything. Basically, e-waste is just a TV or computer or the DVD, the VCR, the scanner, the inkjet printer that goes with it, not any other device. That all that stuff can go in the regular trash. Number 7, kind of what I was mentioning earlier, solidify or recycle paint products properly. We accept them from Pasquotank residents free of charge back there at 983 Simpson Ditch Road. You can mix kitty litter, sand, mulch in there, and we'll accept them as solid waste at any of the drop-off sites. But and if it dries out, this time of year, it's fine to throw that as a solid waste as well. Try not to hide liquid waste in black trash bags. That's a lot of times will sound like the trash Nazi, and then somebody will just go and throw it in there, and we have to deal with it in other ways. Number 5, and this is more, I guess, in hunting season, but believe it or not, no animals at the sites. I hate to say this, but puppies, kittens, you think that's SPCA. You don't bring them for disposal at the drop-off site or to live at the drop-off sites. And when you're hunting, we can accept that at the main landfill, but not at the drop-off sites. The trimmings, from deer and other hunted animals. But that's a really big one and helps keep our world civilized. Only organic material belongs in the yard waste. So if you got all those grass clippings and you bag them, but I don't want to take it out of the bag. You can't just throw it into the yard waste. That contaminates it, and we grind that stuff up, and they don't want metal or plastic in there. And number 3, empty all recyclables out. If this has juice in it and you empty it out, make sure that the hornets and the bees don't come after that juice bottle out there at the site or sting a worker, or God forbid a citizen. And you'd be surprised when your washing machine or your refrigerator die. Please don't just leave the food in the refrigerator and bring the whole appliance out there duct tape. You wouldn't. You think I'm telling, but it smells terrible when the washing machine breaks. You'd be surprised how many people leave the clothes in there and send it out to be recycled. Well, we get dinged from Big Bucks Recycling or Mill Pond Salvage for, oh, we got to take some money off because you left the food in the refrigerator. So you got to empty that out. We can't do it all for you. Number 2, secure loads en route to the curb, landfill, and sites. With gas prices up, people are mounting up pickup trucks full of trash. Sometimes you're just in a race to get out there, but Green Saves Green and our department and the city are trying at least to do twice a year a cleanup of litter along the roadways, and we don't want to be culprits in littering out there. So if you can secure those loads, it's not only an environment thing, but a safety factor. We don't want boards and other trash out there on the street. And last but not least, buy what you need and use what you buy. So just because it's a good deal and you got it for half off doesn't mean you necessarily always need it. Yeah, make sure you use it. You'd be amazed at how much stuff is still in the wrapping and gets thrown out because it's just overlooked or it was set up and doesn't get used. So this is kind of concluding my presentation, but I had this funny little meme come apart. When your family says they'll go the extra mile for your burial when you pass, just be careful where they're talking about. So, you all have been a great group. I'll entertain questions. This was several years ago, but I like clean water and environment, and that's my email, phone number, website. If you see me in a county truck out there at Fun Junction, we're very transparent. Hop in there and I'll point and show you around, and any of our workers as well. I'm real proud, notices of violations from the state in the 5 years that I've been here with the county. If the state recommends something, we jump on it and get it done. You as citizens are great participants. I think, we just have to police ourselves with what belongs in the bin and the best way to dispose of it. So thank you so much for your time today. Yes, ma'am.
Our pristine recyclables take up to Virginia that they just love from us. What do they do with them? Is there any of it that's actually recycled to create any part of it, bottles, anything, or is it always in?
It varies. Sometimes that Tidewater fiber recycling, they're having to do appointments because of manpower and the volume of material that's coming in there. So they're getting better. They found they've gone to a temp agency to find workers because it's not all automated. On the front end, there is machine operators. So a lot of your plastic is going to carpet recycling. The aluminum cans, I've told, in 95 days are back on your shelf as another Anheuser-Busch product. I'm not trying to endorse any particular company, but the aluminum is really valuable. Steel is going even to places like Nucor, a couple counties over. And then the fiber, they're still sending a lot overseas to like the cardboard and scrap paper. But
when you compact it and you drop it off there, do they sort it or are they just?
Yes, they're sorting it. Mm-hmm. And that might be another presentation we need to get. Is they've got some great animation of magnets pull out the steel, and eddy current, which is an electric current, pulls out the aluminum. They've got optics for the plastic, and then these like banana star screens for the different grades of paper. And it's fascinating, but they run 2 shifts a day, 6 days a week at Tidewater Fiber. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see more composting. When we drop this yard waste, can that be used? And where I come from, they just turn that into compost and give it back to people.
Right.
Where does this go?
The composting, so what we found is when you bring that yard waste to us, we're bringing it and then housing it and grinding it about twice a year, every 6 months, and using the chips internally for cover on our C&D landfill. But the state has said that with composting, you've got to have it windrowed and then an internal temperature of 131 degrees for 3 consecutive days. And we just haven't been able to justify the material or the space or the equipment to process it. Maybe one day we will have that, but the Northeast, there's more markets for that, as well as out towards Charlotte and the mountain area. But yeah, we're not at the composting, unless it's done in a backyard, it's hard to keep it viable on a commercial scale.
Any of the yard household waste or hospitals or schools?
No, they now like Walmart, they have McGill, they have an individual dumpster, and since they're so big, I think they're on a big like a national account with them, yeah, for the local Walmart. But everybody else, yeah, they don't. There's no commercial composting program.
So does the yard waste then go into the landfill?
It is used as a cover, right? A supplement for soil for the construction demolition. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it easier to sort out the aluminum and the cardboard and the paper and the plastic than it is to have people do that?
Oh, you mean at the front end to collect it in the individual? Well, we kind of followed national and state trends. They said if we collected it all in one container, it'd be easier and more convenient. You wouldn't have to go to 7 different containers. You wouldn't have to purchase 7 different dumpsters, and people would participate more. But then there's also the processing, the catch-22 of having to process it. So you're right. If you kept all your aluminum cans, you'll get a better price at like Big Bucks Recycling or Mill Pond Salvage or a local salvage yard than you would if it's mixed. But the genie's kind of out of the bottle. Our program, the city's program, and most of the neighboring counties already collected in compactors mixed right now, or they call it commingled. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Probably being a Debbie Downer, but being poor in recycling, to me, kind of just seems like no one is reducing.
Reducing.
I haven't talked about reducing waste.
Well,
Is there any encouragement for that? Do you do any programs like stopping the plastic water bottles?
right. I mean, we try our best, but especially after COVID, people wanted sanitation. They didn't want to reuse anything. There was a need just to get the stuff out the door. But that last wish list, buy what you need and use what you buy. I think that's a big thing. I think on the manufacturing side, you're seeing them go. What was I just buying? And it was in some of the detergents now in a little pouch instead of a big heavy plastic container. So they're sometimes the private sector, the manufacturers are finding it more advantageous to reduce their waste by reinventing the container that they're selling the product in.
I think we're doing that because we're putting pressure by not buying products.
Oh yeah, and exactly. The consumer, I think there's definitely more awareness in today's generation than there was 20, 25 years ago. Yes, ma'am, in the green shirt.
How often do you coordinate with the extension to do the pesticide or herbicide collection?
Al Wood on an annual basis. We don't get into it because it can get real expensive super fast, and he's kind of in the circuit with the state and a statewide contract to do that. But if you call Cooperative Extension, they'll kind of keep you posted with when the next date is. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Insurance or what, that we don't have some sort of salvage area where some of the structured stuff could be, trying to ground for reuse.
Oh, that's a good point. We used to have swap shops. There was one at the landfill. We did a salvage pass at the C&D landfill. Well, after the fall of 2017, the prison riot, we lost all our community service workers and the prison help. We had, for $1 a day per inmate, 4 of them out at the landfill that would pull salvageable 4x4s, 2x4s, building materials out, and then the public could use it to build dog houses, chicken coops, supplement at their house. But so we don't have that manpower there. And then with the swap shops, they were being abused, and we would get our office calls. I put that in there for somebody to use, not to be seen at the yard sale on Saturday for $10. And it got into people were irate that somebody picked up what they gave away and then turned around and sold it. And then we also had some bad behavior going on at the swap shops, some transactions, and the county just said, when they come out here, we can't do that. So great point. We had a inmate program at the C&D Hill, but we lost the labor for that. And then with the swap shops, and they're even doing that in Perquimans County. I heard they had like a bed bug infestation from some furniture that was left there. So they've just cut it. So.
There are like, I think, 8 different kinds of plastic, and only a couple of them can be recycled. Can the separators pick out the winners and then the rest goes to the landfill?
Right. I mean, your HDPEs and your PET bottles are the Cadillacs of the recycled plastic world. The flower pots and the seed packs and some of the 5-gallon tubs, they don't want those. And it has to do with some chemistry, I guess the melting point and the chemistry behind that plastic bottle. So number 1s and 2s. Right. But like I told you, yeah, I guess the processor that.
So you gotta just accept it and put it in trash and recycle a lot of plastics that we use.
Right, just anything basically with the neck on it, the 1s and 2s, and it doesn't have a hazardous material in it. We don't want plastic oil quarts in there, old gasoline containers from fuel. Yes, that's a number 2, the traditional plastic. Yeah, we don't take the aseptic containers. They've been kind of flirting with that, but that's kind of the old-fashioned wax paper container. You see, gosh, in my house, the soy milk, almond milks come in it, and there's so much, I guess, wax and then aluminum and an aseptic barrier that it's problematic for the processor. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, but on the non-accessible plastic that usually come in size giant. Is there any effort to sort it down so we're not out 2 feet of air into the landfill? Because I know you can crush it, but you still.
Yeah, I say empty it. Washing it out helps this time of year, so that and if you can crush it, we'll still accept it. And they call it in the industry, I've heard it been called memory. So those big, even a plastic milk jug wants to stay, or the detergent bottle. If you can crush it, it will take up less space in that container out there at the landfill.
You shred it, it ain't gonna come back.
Yeah, if you got a shredder, yeah.
No. I'm saying is the device, these fancy recycling bins that are fixing the stuff when it gets there.
Oh, at the manufacturer, the processor. Yeah, they've got some industrial shredders that will shred it. But I'm talking about from the collection standpoint and the hauling, compacting will do a great job. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
The store drop-offs that you see, like at food lines and bags and things like that, do you know anything about whether that material is actually being recycled, or does it just end up in the dump?
I can't speak on behalf of Lowe's or Walmart, but I would say they sure wouldn't collect it just to look good. I think they collect on such a scale that I mean, you can see behind Walmart sometimes just a row of compacted cardboard. I know Lowe's, they were first to take like your compact fluorescent lights, battery recycling, the plastic bags. And I understand like in Winchester, Virginia, there's Trex that makes the plastic lumber out of that. And they don't like to buy from municipalities. They like to buy from the Walmarts and the food lines that have a little higher grade material. I mean, I encourage young people, it's a rewarding line of work. I was a biology major at Wilmington. I didn't think I'd be in the world of waste, but it's both inside and outside work. It kind of matches my personality. Gosh, these jobs, they can't be, outsourced or offshored. I don't think we'll be able to send this recycling to be done by somebody over in Asia or something. And it's also recession resistant sort of field of work. So in good times or bad times, rich or poor, whatever demographic you fit in, you're always going to have a job. And you're kind of on the front line of environmental concerns and the whole green field. So, and I hesitate to even imagine what in 10, 15 years, they might say, boy, why weren't you doing this? What sort of inventions or thoughts will go into the field? So, yes, ma'am.
Anybody, farmers, or just
Yeah.
they could pick it up, it could be served in the community as natural. Is that something
It sounds good, but I think in theory, trying to find a market for that, almost best. Right. I know there's a finite amount of time. We don't want to be for a health and safety factor, getting vermin at the sites. Gosh, we expanded a few years ago, the Coast Guard site right at the end of the airport. And that was one of the questions. You're not going to have any, how are you going to prevent seagulls from getting in the flight path of airplanes out there? So with the composting at the sites, unless we get some sort of ingenious container to keep it, I don't know. And it had to be serviced so often. We're continuing to look, for the McGill that goes to Walmart to collect it, but their organics, there's not an interest at this time from the general citizens, at a municipal level. I think maybe if you're in a more urban area or near more industry, it would be. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
And you're recycling, so you can put mail in there. I have been doing it, so I've been taking a marker and marking out my name and address. Stop doing that, is it safe?
Oh, no, that's a good point. Good point. We haven't had any ID theft. When it gets in there, like Tidewater Fiber is a bonded facility. So leaving information on there, I would maybe check statements, credit card statements. Yeah, rip it up. I know, I don't want to advertise it, but Wilson Jones, sometimes we've had tax preparers and other sensitive document people, he'll burn it in his boiler up there. So it's destroyed for sure, but we haven't had any ID theft that I know of there. And we did have at one of the drop-off sites, this was about 6 years ago, a couple that had broken up, and the husband wanted to pay the site attendant to sideline his ex's bag of trash so he could go through that. And that was squashed real quick. And, the tenant, so you hear all sorts of, yeah. Yes, sir.
I'll answer it now. As you know, one of us is very big on shredding, and they have these big bags of shred, and you think, oh, we can't take that for recycling. Why not?
So the shredded paper, the industry, and it kind of goes ebbs and flows. They want it, if it's shredded, in a clear plastic bag. And I'll have to work with our staff because it will change tomorrow, but
I just put it in the bag, so it didn't make.
yeah, it doesn't turn into confetti and litter the roadside. So yeah, if you shred your paper, especially if it's cross shredded, it turns into a million pieces and goes everywhere. You can keep that in a plastic bag and put it in the recycle bin, and they'll pull it out at the processor side. But if that shredded paper is in a black plastic bag or a white one, they're
Cardboard bag. Paper bag.
yeah, I mean, I guess it would still get recycled that way.
He said, no.
They prefer it in a clear plastic bag, from what I understand.
Everybody said happy, keep her happy.
Yes, ma'am.
Lately, we've been driving to the line, coming back, and I see furniture and rugs and mattresses sitting up. Do they get picked up by the city? I mean,
Yes, ma'am. City has like a bulk waste pickup. And I think they make like a milk run through the neighborhoods and then as needed when called. But none of that can be recycled. All that has to go as regular bulk waste to the landfill. Yes, sir. Sure. Oh. Well, we were told from our processor, oftentimes it's so contaminated, especially all the styrofoam trays coming out of the schools, that
On a Tuesday, all that styrofoam in there, big mountain box.
right. And the market for styrofoam is you've got to collect so much of it and then have a densifier to compact it and make it that they just want it out. And you'll see on the styrofoam too, the little chasing arrow, or this can be recycled, and trying to make you feel good. But the realization is the private sector, they don't want that.
We did have one question online.
Yes.
They asked if you can recycle tires.
Right, we take scrap tires at the landfill facility, 983 Simpson Ditch Road, as well as at the new land site off Highway 158. And well, side note about that, a whole automobile tire can't go into a landfill. That's been a state law for 35 years, but it will float up and destroy the liner of a landfill. So the scrap tires, we put in tractor trailers and send it out to Cameron, North Carolina, to Central Carolina Tire, where they shred them and make all sorts of new, from shredded mulch to more tires there. But, yeah, there's a lot of great questions. Thank you.
Well, we would like to thank Brad for coming out today. I think this is very interesting and probably one of our more popular History for Lunches lately with questions. So, but they were all wonderful questions. I think we all have a lot to learn about recycling and promoting recycling. But thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it. And on your way out the door, there's some freebies, little notepads, chip clips, other stuff on the little 2 baskets on the table there. So thank you for your time today.